Hello, I am not a YouTuber, but sometimes I make videos when I'm bored. Full disclosure, I am a Christian, so throughout this video I'm going to be mentioning Christian beliefs and ideas and God and Jesus and all of that. So I wanted to do this little chat because something's been bothering me lately, and it is a tattoo that I got. When I was 18 years old, I got this really big tattoo. Now, before I get into it, this is not going to be a video about my testimony or anything like that, so I'm not going to get into it, but to keep things short and simple, from the ages of 12 through 19, I believe, I was in a very rebellious phase against my Christian faith, against God, and I was really into Marilyn Manson and kind of the culture that is very like anti-Christian is cool. I am now a fully dedicated Christian that regrets pretty much everything about the lifestyle choices that I made as a teenager, and I was a crappy, selfish person as a teenager and not very clever. That is for a different video, so I'm not going to be going into the details. I'll probably make a testimony video at some point in my life and go into that a little bit more, but just to give you guys that context of why I have this. So I got this tattoo on my 18th birthday, and how it happened is it was about a week before my 18th birthday, and I was driving home from work. There was a Marilyn Manson song that came on because I mentioned I was like a huge fan of his, like went to a bunch of concerts, met him at his meet and greet, like the whole 9 yards. I believe it's called Deep Six. It's kind of a good thing that now I barely even remember which song it was, but the lyrics say, "It's like a stranger had a key, came inside my mind and moved all my things around. I didn't know snakes can't kneel to pray, can't try to break my psyche down." I was going through a really bad spot in my life, in my mental health, with anxiety and depression, so I really related to the lyrics. It's like a stranger had a key, came inside my mind and moved all my things around. And not knowing that I actually do believe that that's literally what was happening in the spiritual realm. And what stood out to me was they didn't know, or he didn't know, snakes can't kneel to pray. It just seemed like, really standing up against this anxiety and depression. And also it stuck out to me because I was really, really, really rebelling and struggling to relate to my Christian faith and to faith in God at all. I was very atheistic at that time in my thinking, and I really struggled to relate to how could somebody believe in God. And now I know it's because you don't actually use your mind to necessarily muster out belief. The Bible talks more about that in faith, and I know it's real now, and it's very, very real. I only saw the physical, so in my mind I was looking at the physical things and going, how can people believe that there's more to this? It's clearly just what meets the eye. And I was very, very wrong. I was identifying myself with very dangerous, dark things that are symbolizing Satan and the enemy, and I was identifying myself with those, and I can't tell you guys how much I have repented for that, and I was extremely wrong for that. I am so thankful that Jesus Christ died on the cross so that we can be separated from sin, because I can look on that and say that was complete sin. In the less spiritually deep aspect of it, I also just thought it was cool. I thought it looked cool. I thought it was cool that the serpent is what tricked Adam and Eve in the garden. It was kind of edgy and cool to relate yourself to the serpent. And I also just thought that the snake symbolized rebellion. That when I heard that lyric, it just hit me. I should get a snake tattoo, because literally I knew my 18th birthday was coming up, so I think my mind was just kind of desperate to think of something to get tattooed. I went home and Googled it, found a couple pictures that I liked, and I decided to go ahead and do it. So I think it was the next day I was downtown and walked into a tattoo shop and asked if I could make an appointment for my birthday. I was originally going to get text on it that said never kneel, and praise God, I'm so grateful that I did not get the lettering. I decided to just get the snake, because if I had the lettering that said never kneel, especially being a Christian now, don't know if I would have tried to cover it up or what. The tattoo was really big, and at the time since I was about 11 years old, I had decided that I wanted to be a fully covered, heavily tattooed woman, and I really just was set on this. I didn't even question it. Of course I'm gonna want to be heavily tattooed. So the size of the tattoo wasn't a big concern to me, because I figured I'm gonna cover my body in tattoos anyways, so I wasn't really worried about getting something small. And I wanted the tattoo on my thigh, so I figured for a professional setting I wouldn't be probably showing my thighs anyways. I do praise the Lord that I did get it on my thigh, because it is so much easier to cover up than something that would have been like on my arm. So I didn't really think very far into the sizing of it at all. I just told the artist this is what I want, and he said, well, you know, to be honest, that's going to need to be pretty big to fit in all the detail that you want, because I wanted a lot of detailing and like everything. And he was like, that's going to have to be a pretty big tattoo. And I was like, yeah, no problem. I'm a go big or go home person. I think from the time that I had the idea to get that tattoo, from the time that it was inked on, was 6 days. I didn't research for 1 second at all, pretty much, anything outside of like how to heal a tattoo properly, like how to wash it and take care of it. That's all I researched. I didn't research the ink. Like, now I know that the ink can actually be somewhat toxic and there are issues that can happen. I didn't research risk, any side effect, any issue with scarring, nerve damage, the type of ink that they use. Literally none of that. The only thing I knew was to check to make sure he used a new needle. And I do remember thinking a little bit like, what if I become a Christian or change my beliefs so much, or, you know, decide that I don't want tattoos? What would happen? And I just remember thinking like, that's not gonna happen. All of that being said, I got it. I was pretty happy with it, but of course, like when you're trying to find happiness and satisfaction from something like that, of course, it left me wanting more tattoos. I actually had at least one tattoo appointment, maybe more, that I ended up canceling out on. And I remember losing money on that at least once, maybe twice, because I was like going to get my other thigh completely covered, and then I would like chicken out last minute. Luckily, I wanted more Marilyn Manson lyric related tattoos. I wanted types of like weird and stupid quotes, and I'm so glad I don't have that stuff, you guys. Like, I already deal with the one that I have. I didn't really think much of it, honestly. It was a lot less of a big deal. I remember thinking it was not as big of a deal as I thought it would be. And then a little bit later, I remember kind of regretting it, because I was thinking like, man, that's on there. That's on there good. The thing that I hadn't like really thought about is with the size of it, there's very little chance of covering it up, at least not in a way that looks good. For anybody who recommends like just laser it off, I understand your thought behind it, but trust me, with the size of this tattoo and the way that it is, the darkness of the lines, the fact that it's not faded at all and probably won't fade very significantly, it is not going to be an option for me to get it lasered. It would be incredibly painful. It would be so many sessions. It would be incredibly expensive, and it would probably not lighten it to a significant amount after all of that. It would be thousands. I started to realize that it was going to limit me a little bit, instead of my kind of careless attitude when I got it of like, if I don't want it, I'll just cover it up with pants. I think it started to set in and it started to bother me like, well, what if there's a situation where I have to wear a certain outfit and I don't want to show my tattoo? I had thought about coloring it in just to give it a little bit more vibrancy, but that's not going to be the right option for me, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. I stopped thinking about getting any more tattoos after that, because I didn't fully admit it to myself yet, but I think I was starting to realize that I regretted what I already had, and so I discontinued any thought of getting more, and I just kind of left it there, and it was just there for years. And then in 2019, I became a Christian again, and again, it feels weird to say that without explaining how, but I'll just go a little bit. I was in a very, very dark and bad place in my life, and I just realized that God was my only hope, and it just hit me that all this rebelling and running away wasn't accomplishing anything, and that I did love God and that He loved me. And I repented, gave my life back to Christ, never been happier in my entire life. Did not see that one coming. Like, did not see that coming at all. And so after about a couple weeks of giving my life to Christ and being all excited, I started to think about this tattoo. Now, granted, I'm sure there are a lot of Christians out there with snake tattoos, and it doesn't mean anything against your faith for you. For me, I know that the reasons that I got it were not very pretty, so it was going to bother me because I know my heart in getting it. If you're a Christian and got one, I'm not saying that you got it for a bad reason, but I'm saying I got it for a bad reason. I talked to a couple of tattoo artists that recommended, one said like we could color it in, maybe some quotes that I could get around it, or a border. Talked about maybe getting it turned into like an elephant on the bottom and then the trunk being the snake body. And so I just went through a couple options, but I realized that I just didn't think it would be right for me to add on to it. I felt more at peace and just better about just leaving it with what I was already stuck with and not adding more tattoo to possibly regret later. And I'm also going to get into the physical reasons. So for me personally, my body did not react well to being tattooed. Yours might be fine. It gets raised, like you can feel it in the dark type of thing. It gets bumpy. All of that is actually normal for tattoos, especially with dark black lines. But it definitely gets irritated even now. Was 6 years ago when I got it, and it still gets irritated, still flares up. So it's definitely scarred, and I still get like weird sensations in it. Like sometimes it'll give me like a weird tingling feeling for like no reason, and I'm talking 6 years on. It still bothers me sometimes. So it is not something that my body reacted very good to. So that's something else that I just didn't consider at all. I knew that I had a sensitive skin, but I just figured, everybody else is doing it. Like, you never really hear of anybody having any issues with it. It'll be fine. It is fine. I don't think anything's like wrong or infected with it or anything, but I think it's just that it's scarred and my body reacts a little bit strange to like all the scar tissue. There's just a lot out there that I'm not trying to scare anybody who's tattooed. I know tons of people who are very heavily tattooed with no issues. I have a big tattoo and I haven't had like any health problems from it. So I'm not like trying to scare anyone, but I'm just saying to be educated. And if you're a Christian, I truly believe that if you pray for this, that God will deliver you from your mistakes and protect you. And if you're not a Christian, I don't think that like, oh, you have a tattoo, you're gonna die or anything like that. There are just strange things that people don't usually know about in an average tattoo shop. It's just not usually on people's minds. So many people regret their tattoos due to it not reflecting their lifestyle later on. I'm not ashamed of my past. I'm not worried about people judging me, because at the end of the day, if you want to judge me for something I did on my 18th birthday, that's on you. When I am showing off my tattoo, when I see it, like, I don't like it. I have a little sister. We like to dress up like Visco girls in the summer, and like I just think that's like a cute fashion trend, whatever. Don't comment about that and be like, oh, it's ugly, because I don't care. But like, you know, it, for those of you that don't know, the Visco style, it's like oversized t-shirts and puka shell necklaces. And a lot of those outfits, like, I literally can't wear in the summer, because when I look at the photos of me in that outfit, I just see my tattoo. Every time that I get a new outfit, it's something that I think about, of like, I need to make sure it's knee length, or I need tights to wear under it, because even in the summer when it's so hot, it's like I try to get flowy skirts that will at least cover it. I like to cover it everywhere I go, not for other people, but for myself. There is a positive side though. I think there are benefits to it, or prophecy in it, that I didn't see. Snakes also are a symbol of rebirth, or like shedding your skin and being made new. And I think that the Lord is so in that interpretation for me. Not that he was behind my decision to get it, but since I can take comfort in knowing that I feel like there are other ways to look at things, or to look at the past. Perspective is so important. And when I look at this tattoo, I know that without even knowing it at the time, I got this symbol of being made new, being transformed. And that's basically what happens when we give our life to Christ and become believers. It says that, you know, behold, all things are made new. Don't let the enemy get a foothold for this to bring you down into depression. I get it. It's easy to feel hopeless about this issue, because if laser isn't an option, or if cover up isn't an option, I strongly encourage you to just pray for peace against that, and pray for peace knowing that Jesus Christ absolved you and removed you from sin. You know that your heart was good and everything when you got it. This doesn't apply to you, but I'm talking to those of us who know that we made a mistake and did something that we shouldn't have done. Please don't let the enemy bring you down in this. You can be proud of your past and use it as a testimony to glorify God. I can live my life every single day proud of the fact that Jesus Christ absolved me from my past, absolved me from my sin, and I can walk in victory over my past and in victory over my sin through him. I've been made new, and I'm going to be getting a new body at the end of the age. If any of you are out here struggling with tattoo regret, you should definitely try to know that this isn't something that needs to bring you down with regret every day, that you can move on with your life and essentially ignore it, because laser removal is very expensive and not always an option, but ignoring it is free. And just have peace in the Lord and in Jesus Christ. Alright, so I think that's all I have to say just kind of for this chatty video. I just want you guys to walk away and take from this that I'm just being open and honest that if you're thinking about getting tattooed, definitely consider these things. And I would honestly think about your tattoo ideas for at least a year, if not like 5 years, because it's going to be on your body for the rest of your life. Waiting 1 year, if you're 16, 17, that might sound like a really long time, but I can guarantee you it'll go like that, and you'll at least have more clarity on if it's something that you really want. Consider the fact that some people do say tattoos are toxic. Do your research on that to make sure that you're comfortable with what you're putting in your body, and acknowledge that everyone's bodies react differently. If you want to get a tattoo as well, there are so many other things you can do to change up your look. And I know I sound like an 80-year-old grandma saying this, but seriously, it's true. There are so many other things you can do to change up your look that are less permanent. That's my little advice, my little chat. I hope you guys took something from this, hopefully anything. So I'll see you in the next video.